This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Tonight, tax cuts. The Houston government promises to cut the HST by 1%.
I'm in Wolfville, where foodies and film buffs are gathered for Devour. We'll join you live from tonight's opening gala.
And Festival of Fears. A scary donation leads to some Halloween fun for Glace Bay youth.
Mild temperatures tonight and again on Thursday, but this front is going to bring big changes into the forecast as this system approaches from the south. Your full forecast is coming up.
Good evening. It certainly has the feel of an election promise. Today, Premier Tim Houston announced that he plans to cut the HST from 15% down to 14%. He says it's meant to help people who are struggling with the rising cost of living. Taryn Grant reports.
There's a crisis of affordability affecting many Nova Scotians, and Premier Tim Houston says he's going to provide some relief.
Beginning on April 1st, 2025, Nova Scotians will see a reduction in the provincial sales tax. We'll reduce the provincial portion of the HST by 1 percentage point.
The cut would bring sales tax down to 14%, and it would amount to $260 million a year in lost revenue for the province. Provincial sales tax is the government's second largest source of revenue after personal income tax. But Houston didn't characterize it as a loss. He calls it an investment and says the change in revenue will be sorted out in the budget process.
That the next investment that we can make, the next best investment we can make, is back into Nova Scotians to keep that money in their hands. They'll know what to do with it. So we have to do it. We're going to do it.
The opposition Liberals have been talking about a tax cut for months. Liberal leader Zach Churchill says if he's made premier, he'll bring HST down by 2 points. He says a single percentage point doesn't go far enough.
The fact that they've been saying for the last year that they couldn't do this, that it was a bad idea, and on the eve of what seems to be an election, they're doing this, I think, is a pretty cynical play and all about politics and not about the economics of people's pocketbooks or the province.
Nova Scotia's fixed election date is next summer, but it's widely anticipated that Houston is going to call a snap election this weekend. Like Churchill, NDP leader Claudia Chender thinks that has a lot to do with Houston's new promise.
People will probably welcome the promise of a tax cut. What we saw here, I think, was a stump speech. And I think that the challenge with a 1% HST cut is that it benefits the people who buy the most. And I think that what we need right now is relief that helps the people who need it the most. And this isn't that.
Chender says she would prefer to see all HST taken off essential items like groceries and for more money to be put into affordable housing. The province will have to pass legislation before any tax cut can take effect. Taryn Grant, CBC News, Halifax.
And still with your pocketbook, the Bank of Canada has gone big with its latest interest rate cut, dropping its trend-setting policy rate by 0.5 percentage point, the largest cut in years.
We took a bigger step today because inflation is now back to the 2% target, and we want to keep it close to the target.
The bank's overnight rate now stands at 3.75%. The central bank says its job has shifted from lowering inflation to maintaining it around its 2% target. The bank is also forecasting inflation will stay in that area into 2026. Macklem says more cuts can be expected as long as the economy evolves in line with forecasts. The province is encouraging more student nurses to work in the province by paying their tuition. The government is covering tuition costs for 30 people who agreed to the accelerated 18-month nursing program at Nova Scotia Community College's Ivany campus in Dartmouth. The program uses the same curriculum as other practical nursing programs. Classes will run from January 2025 to June 2026, and students will work 1 to 2 shifts a month while studying. Today was one of the warmest October 23rds on record for some parts of Nova Scotia, and that is a big bonus for farmers in the region. Having temperatures around double what they would normally be is allowing some to extend their growing season, as well as helping with the harvest. The CBC's Gareth Hampshire has that story.
Warm weather this late in October is allowing some Nova Scotia farmers to continue growing crops that would normally be a challenge at this time of year. The cloth material Fogarty's Market Garden is using to protect these turnips from frost hasn't really been needed yet.
These are definitely the crops, which these tops would all be dead by now. hitting a good frost. And as you can see, they're still thriving.
He's also planning for the future where the province might be ahead a few temperature zones, trying to grow beets all through the winter in this new greenhouse and trying out other fruits from warmer climates.
A few crops that we really want to get into would be figs is number one. We have about 6 varieties that we're trialing here. The second would be mulberries. We have some mulberry trees down in the other greenhouses, and then we're also going to look at trying to get into pawpaws.
Mild temperatures are helping in the valley as well. Consistently warm weather through the season has led to an earlier harvest.
If you're picking and doing anything in these colder temperatures, work slows down, efficiency slows down, that sort of thing. So with these nice temperatures, it's been fabulous for us as a business.
Henniger's built a new greenhouse too to help extend their growing season.
I've got a whole bunch of lettuce upgrowing in my greenhouse, soon ready to harvest to purchase at the local market, which is great for us. So it's getting a big advantage for us for sustainability.
Apples are the main crop here, but they're trying to grow as much local produce for this market as possible. Just down the road, the apples are larger than previous seasons at Noggin's Corner, thanks to a great weather year, and they're also big on flavor.
Cortlands that are 5 inches across. They've got Honeycrisp that are grapefruit size. I have Ambrosias. We're just picking Ambrosias, never seen them so large. And with the large size comes higher sugars, tastier apples.
Temperatures for this time of year would normally be significantly cooler at around 11 degrees, but lately it's been about double that in Halifax and the Valley, making it prime for growing. Gareth Hepshire, CBC News, Wolfville.
Yeah, another wonderful, beautiful, warm day in Nova Scotia, but there's talk of change in the forecast, Ryan.
There certainly is, Tom. We've been watching this front that's been approaching for the last couple of days. Still one more mild day tomorrow ahead of the front, but it will actually feel the front coming in throughout the afternoon. So high temperatures today, yeah, you can see high teens, low 20s. The valley, where Gareth was reporting there, an absolutely stunner again, 21 to 23 degrees, Kentville to Wolfville, and back into the Greenwood area. And you can see for tonight, low-level cloud, fog patches, couple of very isolated shower possibilities tomorrow morning, but overall just kind of a cloudy day. This front coming through will shift the winds to north into the afternoon. That will usher in that cooler air. We'll talk about this system in just a second. Temperatures tomorrow, as a result, will still be warm, 17 to 20 degrees, but expecting the Northumberland shore will start to fall into the afternoon, back into Colchester, Cumberland as well, and even Cape Breton will likely start to feel that northerly flow for Cheticamp into the afternoon. This is the system we've been watching all week. The heaviest rain is still expected to track offshore. That said, we'll see some rain and some gusty winds kicking in Thursday night into Friday. We'll talk about that with your full forecast in a few minutes. Tom.
Looking forward to that, Ryan. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Well, a celebration of film and food is happening in Wolfville. Tonight is the opening gala of Devour, the Film Food Fest, and that's where we find Amy tonight. And Amy, you've got your mind on pizza, don't you?
Well, why not, Tom? It's the world's favorite food. Every region has their own take on it, even here in Nova Scotia. So I'm joined now by Lydia and Brad Sayu. You've got a short film on Pictou County-style pizza. How the heck did this come about?
So I'm a Pictou County native, born and raised, and I'm just really proud of my hometown. Brad and I met in Toronto many years ago, and since the day we met, I've been talking about Pictou County-style pizza to him. And we moved back to Nova Scotia in about 2013 and had to have him taste it for himself, and the story was inspired from there.
Well, first of all, what did you think and what did you learn?
My first impression was it's interesting. And I've learned to absolutely love it. We learned so much about making this documentary about the heritage and the tradition and the generational connection that still goes on to this day. Is very, very, very inspiring.
It's also involving some people you know.
Absolutely. So, we know a lot of the families that are behind the restaurants around Pictou County. So it's been great to actually get to know them more and learn the history behind it. And then the host of our video as well is actually one of our employees, somebody I grew up with who also grew up absolutely loving the pizza. So digging into the story and the history and the tradition of love that's baked into every pizza has been amazing.
But it's also the brown sauce, right?
It's all about the spicy brown sauce.
And the pepperoni, I understand.
Well, that's it. We've identified 3 key pillars what makes a Pictou County style pizza. It's the cheese. There's got to be a lot of cheese. It's the spicy brown sauce, and it's Brothers pepperoni. Those 3 things make a Pictou County style pizza.
All right. Well, what has been the reaction in Pictou County?
You know, it's funny, in the video you'll actually see our 3-year-old daughter at the time who tried it, and her instant reaction was yuck. But now they are obsessed with it and they ask for it at least once a week in our house. And then we also went out to the street and talked to the community, and people just adore it. And everybody's got their favorite restaurant because there's multiple family members, all have their own little spin on how they make it unique. So everybody's got their fan favorite.
All right, we've talked about it enough. Now we have to try it. We've got our producer here, Emma, with the exact taste of it.
All right, well, let's see what you think.
We'll dig in. Cheers. All right, Tom. This is Pictou County pizza. It's really good, very cheesy.
And see the layering, right?
I can.
See how thick and deep it is?
And you can taste the brown sauce for sure. All right,
Yeah,
Tom.
it
I
looks-
know you're jealous. We'll send it back to you.
Yeah, it looks good all the way from Halifax here, too, I must say. Brown sauce, still a secret, though, right, Amy?
All right. That's exactly it.
All right, thanks so much. That's Amy reporting live for us tonight from Devour, the Film Food Fest in Wolfville. Well, residents in 6 districts of the municipality of Colchester have voted in favor of a managed deer hunt. The vote in the recent municipal election was said to be overwhelmingly in favor of the hunt. Colchester Mayor Christine Blair, who has been re-elected, told CBC News the deer are creating dangerous driving conditions and property damage. The province needs 3 years of data before a hunt can begin, so Blair says one could start in 2026 at the earliest. Colchester will look closely at the model used by Truro, where hunters use bows and crossbows. Looking for something spooky to do this Halloween season? A Glace Bay Youth Centre is hosting a Festival of Fears that was all made possible by a strange and scary donation worth tens of thousands of dollars. Aaron Potty has that story.
At the Undercurrent Youth Centre in Glace Bay, monsters and villains have come alive. That's thanks to the donation of roughly $60,000 worth of Halloween characters. The collection is so large, a whole gymnasium is needed to house it all.
You're going to get scared, that's for sure. It's a lot of lights, a lot of sound, a lot of jump outs, some pretty scary stuff out there. Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart.
The donation was made by a Sydney family that runs their own business. They started collecting the items years ago and eventually turned it into a fundraiser for a community playground.
We just keep adding to it, and we love it because we love all the people that come. We love seeing the kids. We love helping our community.
Once the display got so big and their business started growing, they realized they needed someone else to take the Halloween collection over.
So it was still going to act as a fundraiser. It was still going to help someone or a group that very much needed assistance. And they're doing a great job with it. And I hope it's going to be as successful as it was when we ran it here.
The donation includes more than 100 animated props. There's Michael, Freddy, Chucky, and Jack Skeleton, and even a room full of evil clowns. While most of it is the stuff of nightmares, Den Hartog calls it a dream.
Man, we're just so eternally grateful. It's huge for us. It's not something that we ever could have dreamed to put together ourselves.
The Festival of Fears runs until the end of October. Entry is by donation, with money given to support the center's youth programming. Erin Potty, CBC News, Glace Bay.
Well, while Amy was in Wolfville today earlier, she got this beautiful shot. We're going to hear more from Amy from the Film Food Fest and more from Ryan, of course, for the full weather forecast. We're back in just a few minutes. All right, Ryan back with us now to talk weather on what has been a pretty remarkable day weather-wise in Nova Scotia. And if you hadn't started the furnace already, you probably aren't going to need it anytime soon, at least in the next few hours, at least.
Yeah, for sure. And I think even tomorrow night, temperatures, borderline, but we're definitely going to hear the furnaces kick on as we move into the weekend, and certainly early next week. But only for a few nights. That 7-day forecast, a little tidbit, a little carrot at the end in terms of if you like the warm temps. Let's start with webcam video. This is from Nova Scotia webcams.
That's foggy.
Yeah, the fog really persistent along that south coast today, and it's going to be in the mix again for tonight. So again, when you have this warm, muggy air mass that we have in place right now, coming over top of the now cooler waters of the Atlantic, we get this type of setup, and yeah, the fog is definitely going to be in the mix tonight. If you're traveling early tomorrow morning, be mindful that those fog patches will be pretty thick as well along that Atlantic coastline. And you can see temperatures still hanging on to the 20s in Greenwood. Everywhere else is still into the teens right now. And yeah, as we look forward into the forecast, what we're going to be seeing is that wind shifting. That's going to be the big change. Right now, that southerly wind dominating, sustained in the 10, 20, 30 kilometer per hour range at Beaver Island, and just shy of that in Sydney, where we're gusting to 40. And so a breezy southerly wind tonight, that is going to be the name of the game. Watching this front off to the north, this is going to be our game changer for tomorrow. And we're keeping an eye on this system, which does include the remnants of Tropical Storm Oscar. So some tropical moisture with this. Let's time out the rain, and you can see as that system does work to the north, there is a lot of moisture with it. Now, forecast models in good agreement that the heaviest rain is going to remain offshore. These pinks and whites, these are the heaviest of rainfall, near 100 millimeters. That looking set for Newfoundland. For Cape Breton, it looks like, and back towards eastern parts of the mainland, 10 to 30 millimeters, though could see some of those outer rain bands that do push totals up towards 50 locally, especially for Cape Breton County. So keeping an eye on that, but it does look like, again, nothing that we can't handle. As we look at the forecast tonight, we're going to talk about the winds with that system in just a second. Southwest winds tonight, keeping temperatures very mild, very toasty for this time of year, 10 to 14 degrees. There are those fog patches. Forecast model doing a pretty good job with that. And you can see that low-level cloud that's going to remain dominant tomorrow. Couple of isolated showers possible, but for the most part, it's just kind of a cloudy day. And then that system starts to approach into the later stages of tomorrow along that Atlantic coastline. Again, most of that will be very close, but staying offshore. But we will get into some of those outer rain bands tomorrow night. Temperatures tomorrow with this southerly wind, cooler and onshore winds, but we should be back into the 18-19 range for northern parts of Cape Breton, near 20 along the Northumberland shore into Truro. Temperatures 17 to 18 degrees in through the metro area. And again, the winds shifting to northerly into the afternoon. And so maybe a slight temperature drop by a few degrees towards supper time, but overall it is going to remain really mild. Let's time out the winds. So they've already shifted to north here by Thursday around 6 o'clock, or at least trying to, 24 hours from now. Really kicking in from the north Thursday night into Friday morning. That is when the system is moving off. And with that shift to northerly winds and the system really approaching, note the gusts here across Cape Breton up in the 60, maybe 70 kilometer per hour range. Friday in Halifax, some gusts to 50. And so with these winds in mind, and again, even down towards Yarmouth, we likely will gust towards 40 kilometers per hour on Friday. This is going to feel much cooler than what we're used to over the last handful of days. Low double digits with that very brisk northerly wind. There's the system. Again, Friday morning, center of the low south of Sable. That's usually a good thing for us, and in this case it will be again, where that heaviest rain remaining just offshore, but still some pretty good bands of rain even into Friday afternoon for Cape Breton, for Sydney. By Friday evening we're done, and we're into some quieter weather for Saturday. This cold front here moving in Saturday night, that will bring a further cool down. We're riding the single digits Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, but back into the teens Wednesday into Halloween of next week. Tom.
Important information for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Ryan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Coming up, Devour Fest. We'll meet expert chef Robert Clark, a pioneer of the sustainable food movement. Amy will introduce us to him in just a couple of minutes. As we mentioned, the 14th Devour the Film Food Fest is underway in the Annapolis Valley. Now, this year's theme is Game Changers, Change-Making Visionaries. So let's head back to Amy now at the opening gala, who, Amy, I do believe, has finished digesting what looked like some pretty delicious pizza there. Amy, you have a guest with us.
Yes, I do. I'm joined by Chef Robert Clark. He's a pioneer in seafood sustainability. So back in 2005, you co-founded something called Ocean Wise.
Yeah.
Talk about that and how it was received at the time.
In 2005, there was a number of groups trying to set up a Canadian version of the American version of the sustainable seafood movement. And the Vancouver Aquarium approached us as Sea Restaurant. They just said, you guys are doing what we think could be a program. So we just formed the Ocean Wise program. And essentially, in the early days, it's about education. And it was really easy because sustainable seafood and high quality seafood, they're interchangeable. So it was an easy sell for chefs. It was quite literally the turning point for me, because I started in the late 90s trying to figure out what was sustainable, what was not, trying to purchase responsibly as a chef. Because as a chef, you feed 200, 300, 400 people a night, right? So it's much more effective to get a chef to be responsible than the person that's cooking the meals at home. And that's why Ocean Wise was so successful, because chefs bought into it right away. Once we had the aquarium behind us pushing this, then the suppliers came on board. Because essentially, on one side you had fishermen that wanted to be responsible and wanted to produce quality and wanted to get more value out of their product. And you had chefs that wanted it. And then there was the middle ground. And that was the people that needed to be convinced to change. And that was the power of Ocean Wise.
Well, what do folks at home who are going to go out to a restaurant or pick up some fish at the fish store or the grocery store, what should they keep in mind?
My number one rule for seafood is buy as local as possible. I'm a sustainable seafood advocate, but I would sooner you bought something local. Know your fishermen, because if you know the person or the person that's related to the person fishing, there's no way that they are really going to be doing any major environmental damage. Buy local, it's so important. And with seafood, it's even more important. Now we can say in places like, we're here in beautiful Nova Scotia, so much wonderful seafood. Places inland like Toronto, for instance, the Ocean Wise program has a lot of power because it allows the consumer to go to the store, look for the logo. They know that that's recommended by the Ocean Wise program, that has been vetted. And essentially what that means is that there used to be 4 pillars for sustainability. Is it susceptible to overfishing? Which would mean, if they live too long before they reach sexual maturity, they're easily overfished. Is there environmental damage? Is there bycatch? All these things the aquarium, Ocean Wise has vetted, has done the research, has done the auditing, and they say whether it's good or not. It makes it so easy, so easy.
Now, you've got an event coming up on Friday. Tell me about that.
Oh, on Friday. So I retired from being a chef a number of years ago, but I'm still a sustainable seafood advocate. I'm still about food security, food sovereignty. So on Friday in our workshop, I brought the perfect example of the perfect way that we should be handling food in this country. To be sustainable, to be responsible, to be environmentally friendly, to be secure, and to be sovereign, be able to feed ourselves. So come Friday, are you going to come on Friday? We're going to be using Gittinau sockeye, which is harvested at the Gittinau Nation in northern British Columbia off the Nass River. And it's going to taste great. It's going to be very educational. My buddy Chef Julian Bond's going to be with me. If nothing else, it's going to be entertaining.
Before I let you go, I wanted to talk to you about the importance of seafood. You say that's very sustainable, or shellfish, I mean.
Oh, yeah. So if you're really taking sustainable seafood, shellfish, farm shellfish is the most sustainable protein produced on the planet. It is the most. And oysters are the most sustainable of all the shellfish. And in the Maritimes, you have wonderful oysters. So
we don't feel any guilt about eating the oysters at all.
They clean the water. There's no carbon put into their product. They just live wanting to feed and nurture us, and they're healthy. They're healthy for us, right?
Mussels, all the others are
clams. We have things called gooey ducks, and all these things. They are very sustainable. Seaweed, and the great thing, oysters and seaweeds grow very well together. Those that grow together, go together.
Exactly. Exactly.
If you're having seaweed and oysters, you're having the most sustainable meal on the planet.
You heard that, Tom. My excuse to eat more oysters is...
You can never eat too many oysters.
There we go. All right, Tom, back to you.
Your diet has been very varied tonight, that's for sure, Amy. Enjoy your supper.
Thank you.
That's Amy reporting live for us tonight in Wolfville for the Devour the Food Film Fest. Coming up, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau meets with disgruntled MPs at today's Liberal caucus meeting. And with the U.S. election just around the corner, Trump's former chief of staff warns he would rule like a dictator. Welcome back. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is under more pressure than ever before to step down, and it's coming from inside his own party. Now those trying to oust Trudeau have given him an ultimatum. Ashley Burke reports.
The Liberal Party is strong and united.
The party may be united, but not necessarily behind its current leader.
We need change, but...
Liberal MP Wayne Long among those calling on Justin Trudeau to step down.
Liberal Party is an institution in this country. It's bigger than one person, one leader.
He's among 24 Liberal MPs who sources say signed a letter calling on Trudeau to go. And that today an MP read out a document at caucus that says Trudeau has until Monday to decide if he'll leave.
Do you think the Prime Minister should stay?
It's not up to me. It's up to him.
The Prime Minister will make a decision, and he will, whatever the decision is, we will stand behind him.
During that private meeting, Liberal MPs say as many as 20 of their colleagues voiced concerns about the Prime Minister, while others stood behind him.
We heard a lot. Over, I'd say 50 or so people spoke. We heard every angle, every aspect of this. And what it's left us with is something to go away and think about.
Liberal MPs told CBC News the Prime Minister listened and said he would reflect on what caucus told him. But Trudeau told his MPs he wasn't convinced he had to go.
He's quite clear about his intentions, and I don't expect those to change.
My colleagues need to turn the knives outwards and not inwards, and we need to focus on the most important thing, which is getting things done here in Parliament and taking the fight to Pierre Poilievre, because he's a disaster for this country.
The Conservatives seizing on the Liberal division as ammunition against Trudeau.
His caucus is revolting. Will he call a carbon tax election today?
Once Trudeau tells his MPs what he's deciding to do, those trying to oust him will decide how they're going to respond. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Turning now to politics south of the border, the two leading candidates for U.S. president are taking shots at each other's character now, with less than 2 weeks before voting day. The CBC's Chris Reyes has the latest.
Today, a rare middle-of-the-day appearance from Kamala Harris from outside the vice president's residence in Washington. She gave a statement reacting to Donald Trump's former chief of staff, former Marine General John Kelly, calling his ex-boss a fascist.
Donald Trump is increasingly unhinged and unstable. And in a second term, people like John Kelly would not be there to be the guardrails against his propensities and his actions. Those who once tried to stop him from pursuing his worst impulses would no longer be there, and no longer be there to rein him in.
Kelly served as White House chief of staff for Trump from 2017 to 2019. Before that, he also served as Secretary of Homeland Security. Talking to the New York Times, Kelly said Trump had admired things about Hitler.
Former president is in the far right area. He's certainly an authoritarian, admires people who are dictators. He has said that. So he certainly falls into the general definition of fascist, for sure.
Harris did not take any questions during the brief statement. She challenged voters to use Kelly's statements to help them decide who to vote for.
The bottom line is this. We know what Donald Trump wants. He wants unchecked power. The question in 13 days will be, what do the American people want?
Meanwhile, Trump continued his personal attacks against Harris as he campaigned in the battleground state of North Carolina. He railed against her recent 60 Minutes interview.
She gave an answer that was so bad that they changed it. They took the entire, it was a long, stupid, she didn't know where the hell she was going. Does she drink? Is she on drugs? I don't know. I have no idea.
Tonight, Harris will try to reach undecided voters in another critical state, Pennsylvania, in a 1 hour and 15-minute town hall hosted by CNN. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has left Israel as he continues his latest Middle East tour. Blinken has been focusing on ending Israel's war with Hamas and working out a plan for Gaza once the fighting stops. His latest efforts come as fighting between Israel and militants in Gaza and Lebanon intensifies. The CBC's Sasa Petrusek has the latest.
Israel attacked the southern Lebanese city of Tyre, a port city, a very historic city, and it gave 3 hours notice for tens of thousands of Lebanese to get out of the way because it intended to carry out airstrikes targeting Hezbollah, command centers that it says are in the area, in that part of the city. On the other hand, Hezbollah was firing back into Israel as well. The day started off with sirens going off in Tel Aviv, and then later, other cities across the north were targeted. The Israeli military has some success in shooting down the rockets, but they did damage communities and some people were injured up there. This is all happening on the same day that Antony Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, left Israel, leaving a message behind that the fighting really does need to stop, especially in Gaza, where his point is that Israel has made significant gains in cutting back the number of weapons and fighters that Hamas has down there, the militia group, and it's even managed to get rid of its leader, Yahya Sinwar, last week.
I believe that with Sinwar gone, because he was the primary obstacle to realizing a hostage agreement, there is a real opportunity to bring them home and to accomplish the objective.
The problem is that there are no concrete plans that the Israeli government has articulated on what will happen once the fighting stops. These Americans are pushing Israel to figure out what will happen in Gaza, who will rule Gaza if Israel succeeds in totally defeating Hamas and decimating the organization, who will feed Gazans and deliver food aid, and who will rebuild the territory. Those are all questions that Blinken left behind here in Israel. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Jerusalem.
U.S. and South Korean officials are now confirming that there are North Korean troops in Russia. South Korea first revealed the deployment earlier this month. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says American analysts are looking into it.
As we continue to look at this, there is evidence that there are DPRK troops, in Russia.
This video appears to show North Korean soldiers receiving uniforms and equipment at a training ground in Russia's Far East. South Korea's spy agency says there are about 3,000 North Korean troops in Russia for training. There are fears the North Korean soldiers could be in the country to help Russia in its war on Ukraine, which would mark a serious escalation in that conflict. The leader of the PQ in Quebec is calling for stricter secular rules in the province's schools. Authorities suspended 11 teachers at a school in Montreal where a government report said a, quote, toxic climate had taken root. Kathy Sine reports.
For the first time since concerns were raised about the toxic atmosphere at a Montreal school, the Premier felt the need to intervene.
On a un groupe d'enseignants qui ont essayé de faire entrer des concepts religieux islamistes dans une école publique au Québec.
A group of teachers tried to bring Islamic ideas into a public school, he says. François Legault believes Bill 21, Quebec's secularism law, may not have been strong enough to stop what happened at Bedford Elementary. Now he's asking his education minister and his minister responsible for secularism to find ways to reinforce it.
In this recommendation, the members of the investigation committee tell me that in considering the facts, they're coming to the conclusion that the law on secularism is not being respected at Bedford.
For days now, the story has made headlines after a 90-page government report detailed physical and psychological abuse suffered by students at the school. Investigators described a clash of ideologies between two groups of teachers. It pointed out the dominant group was made up of teachers of different origins, including North Africans. The 11 teachers were suspended, and now their licenses have been suspended too.
You don't have to change a law if it's not applied. You have to make it apply.
It's just a question of applying the law properly.
It's not just about that. We just said that we will go further in our thought, analyze everything.
But it's part of the picture.
But it's part of the picture.
Bill 21 bans the wearing of religious symbols by many public sector workers in position of authority, including public school teachers.
I think that the scandal at the Bedford School shows that maybe we weren't talking about the good thing. maybe what's fundamental is not what the people have on their head, but what people have in their head.
Nadeau-Dubois says claims there was religious proselytizing happening at the school have to be proven first. But for the Parti Québécois, there is no doubt. And Bill 21 needs to be reinforced.
If we reinforce it by saying temples, religious temples, should not have involvement in schools, it would have changed the situation in Bedford.
Others are concerned by the turn the debate has taken. This advocate questions how some of the alleged incidents were allowed to happen.
Schools in Quebec are run so that they are not influenced by outside private institutions. So I have no clue how a private Muslim center could have influenced a public school.
Je pense que les Québécois voient très bien ce qui se passe avec ça.
The federal immigration minister says Quebecers see what's happening. He insists the public education system is secular and will stay that way. The situation is delicate for the Legault government. Two ministers will have to look at secularism in public schools, but without sending the signal that its law was poorly developed at the first place.
The Canadian Federation of Independent Business wants tolls removed on the Confederation Bridge. The group says it's too expensive for some of its members on PEI, and it's putting them at a disadvantage. Chien Desjardins reports.
The Canadian Federation of Independent Business says the Confederation Bridge tolls need to end. The group says it's costing some island businesses thousands each year at a time when money is already tight.
It affects goods coming into PEI and raw materials and the final products or services being shipped out. And then amongst that, you have small businesses that do travel and do business. So they have to cross the bridge multiple times a month. And that's, so obviously it's top of mind that this is unfair.
He says that's making it harder for some businesses to compete with others in Atlantic Canada. The owner here agrees. He wants to expand, but crossing the bridge is an added expense, and he could use that money in other places.
It's been happening more and more. I've been able to kind of get my foot in the door with selling to other businesses and marketing our services off island. And I actually find myself driving to Cape Germain, parking, unloading my truck into someone else's truck and turning around and going over the bridge. And for that 30 minutes of time to cost $50, it's tough.
The federal government says it understands that it's important to make sure the bridge remains affordable. The tolls haven't budged since 2022, and that cost is expected to stay the same until the end of 2026. In a statement, Transport Canada said the continuation of freezing tolls on the Confederation Bridge will help make life more affordable for bridge users, in particular Prince Edward Island residents and businesses.
I think it's time to reconsider, to lessen this burden on everybody, but for our perspective, small businesses, so they have an equal playing field.
Some businesses we spoke with today say that the toll doesn't really impact them that much. Others say they've pushed to have that fee reduced or cut completely, but haven't had much luck. Now, the Premier has also made that push, urging the federal government just last week to reduce tolls to $20. The office of the Premier said in a statement that the toll puts strain on islanders, that both the bridge and the ferry are essential, and that no other region in the country faces this kind of financial barrier to move people or goods. Chien Desjardins, CBC News, Charlottetown.
About 400 explosives experts from Canada's military and 9 other allied countries are competing against each other at Base Gagetown in New Brunswick. The Ardent Defender event pits teams in a variety of explosive detection and disposal exercises and competitions. Have a look.
So starting off, the guys are just they're going through a little lane where they got to wear the bomb suit. And kind of go over obstacles and find a letter in a box at the end. And then they'll run back through that lane, try not to go over any of these obstacles, and then they'll trade suits with a friend. Yeah. And then that person is going to search the vehicle. Outside the vehicle, find 4 more letters inside this vehicle to kind of come up and unshuffle a word.
Oh.
Where they'll run out to some boxes over here in the field.
Yes.
Boom! The operator is down, you gotta extract him now. So there's a blast, massive bleeding. He lost an arm from elbow down.
Lost an arm from elbow down.
Drag. Just drag. You're good, you're good. Go, time.
And if they win, they win. If they lose, they lose.
It's based on time?
It is based on time. They have 15 minutes to complete it. Most teams have not come up to finish on time, but they're having a select few that have, so they'll probably win.
How's Canada doing?
Canada has finished on time. A couple of teams. There's many Canadian teams. Not all have passed in time, but we're there.
Canada's main stock index dipped today as the Bank of Canada cut its key interest rate, while U.S. markets also fell. Here's a look at where things closed. All right, with the weather we've been having today and, of course, the last little while, no doubt the Ryan's picks are continuing to fill up the e-bills.
It's hard to pick, honestly. Every day, it's there's more and more in there. There's a lot of sunset shots this week, as I mentioned. A lot of fall, beautiful scenes with the colors and whatnot. Let's have a look at today's, and we're going to go back to Cape Breton for today. And as we zoom in, hopefully, there we go.
There we go.
Yes, a beautiful spot here. North side, East Bay, and sunset indeed.
Lots of colors happening in that picture, isn't it? That's beautiful.
Yeah, a few fall colors in the foreground as well. Terrence Murphy, the Murphys, thank you so much.
Well represented here.
Yeah,
great.
Absolutely. Ryan's picks at cbc.ca. All right, so the forecast for tomorrow, we are going to be seeing temperatures in the high teens, low 20s yet again. So another mild day. Winds will become north into the afternoon. So it looks like Amherst, the Northumberland shore, starting to feel that drop in temperature into the afternoon, especially late afternoon. But overall, kind of just a cloudy day. A few showers, especially in eastern areas. Friday is going to be a big shift in temperatures. The northerly winds, which are going to be quite gusty, especially for Cape Breton, and it's all because of this system coming in. So there's the front we're watching from the north and the system approaching from the south. And yeah, Thursday night, Friday, we're wet, especially across the eastern half of the province. Cape Breton lingering with that rain until Friday evening. And then we're kind of quieting down again into the Saturday time period. There's that rainfall again. Heaviest rain just offshore, but still a pretty good shot likely in through the Sydney area. Could see some local amounts there pushing up towards 50, and you can see the single digits into next week.
We will watch for it all. Okay, thanks so much, Ryan. Well, Halloween decorations seem to get larger every year, which is fine, as long as they don't get away.
We have an inflatable pumpkin I'll be out.
Police in Bay Village, Ohio, were called to the scene of a fugitive pumpkin. It had broken free and rolled onto a busy road. The inflatable giant weighs 350 pounds.
Wow. Police say it was returned to its owner without incident, and that, quote, no officers or pumpkins were harmed during the operation.
I like how one officer was kind of swallowed up by the pumpkin there. That's it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Good night.